Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about one of the things that always puzzles me in the comments section. And I have to wonder if people really pay attention to what I'm saying on this channel based on some of the questions I get. And I'm not saying that to be facetious, I'm not saying that to be a dick, I'm not saying that for anything else. I just look at it and I have to wonder. Because I'll get people who will come in and say, Coach, this is what I'm doing. I'm getting really bad DOMs, or I'm getting fatigued, or I'm struggling day to day, and they're doing something like front squatting and deadlifting 3 days a week, right? They're doing something like that. Well, let me ask you guys a simple question. Do you see me front squatting or deadlifting 3 days a week? Right? Do you see me talking about any of my clients doing that? And what is it I discuss here? Optimizing training programming. So if you're going to do something that you know is not optimal, and you know that I make my living coaching people at optimizing their training programming, how would you expect me to be able to help you? Like if you refuse to do what you know is correct and optimal, why would you go to someone who makes their living optimizing people's programming? You're not going to do what they say anyways. You should. So what is it that I discuss? Well, what do I consider to be optimized programming? More or less the West Side system. Okay? Tuned to your individual needs and your individual sport and your individual goals to some extent. What do I recommend for people who can't run that yet? Linear upper lowers these days. I used to do a lot of full body, but really full body is, if you're still doing full body more than 6 months into your training, we need to reevaluate what's going on at this point. Now, people are like, but what about any of your original novice programs? Yeah, but you could milk those out in 6 months if you really wanted. Like if you pushed those really hard, you could milk any of those out in 6 months and be ready to go to an upper lower, realistically speaking. Now, would I in person coach someone who's even less experienced than that on the system I use? Yes, I would. But I'd have to be there in person. That's the problem. I would have to coach them every individual session. And I mean, realistically, most people are not going to be able to afford that. It's not my purview to do that for a couple $100 a month. That's just not going to happen. So I would do that in that case. So here's the thing I would ask people. If I believe that the basically upper lower conjugate type template is more or less optimal, and the only reason we don't have novices do it is they have to base build and learn technique and build base musculature up because they don't have a coach there teaching them every rep. But realistically, it's the lack of a coach is the only reason we don't do that. And I want that to be very, very clear. I could build someone up in 6 weeks in person using a quick linear system and take them straight into conjugate who's never done real lifting before. That would be fine, but they need a coach in person because they're not going to box squat or deadlift or anything else correctly otherwise. We can dial their form in on the first day. We're good. I can load everything and pick their exact weights and get them rolling, and we're good. So why would you guys ask me about any other system than the one that I use, the one that I advocate, the one that I actually coach full-time with my lifters? Like why would you think I'm going to be able to optimize that? And why aren't you willing to do what's optimal? I mean, I saw that in one of my comments, one of the guys that said, well, I detrained, during the quarantine, and so I'm doing this to get back as quick as possible. Like, okay, well, why don't you just do what's optimal? Do you think you're going to make faster gains by using non-optimal training versus optimal training? Well, I mean, which one do you think is going to rebuild lost muscle and strength more quickly? Which one? Not difficult to figure out. Train optimally. You've detrained, so what? Okay. So you don't think that your strength is just going to go up more quickly? Right, if you go over to correct training and you run a dynamic upper lower, a little bit of supplemental work, like right, max work, dynamic work on your 4-day rotation, throw in a little supplemental work, a little GPP, you're just going to get strong a lot faster because of the detraining. And some of these guys who are here who are like, well, I'm doing squatting and deadlift. It's like, well, first of all, why are you front squatting? Unless you're going to compete in weightlifting, front squatting as a primary squat is not optimal. Doesn't make it a bad exercise, but it is a supplemental lift. It is a supplemental lift. Let's call it for what it is. So again, we come back over to that point. Why are you coming to a person who heavily advocates the box squat and says everyone needs to box squat? Some people can use other forms of squat because they might need it for certain competitive purposes and so on, but they still need to box squat. Why would you come talk to me about front squats? Do you guys see the issue here? And that's the problem I have, you know. I mean, I put out all this information, all this stuff, but it's very context specific, meaning if you're doing this inside the context of correct training. And what I view to be correct training, then it doesn't matter that there's other systems that work. I have reasons why I think this system is overall best for athleticism, and we should all be more athletic. We shouldn't be training purely for body composition. Why would you do that? You don't want to be fitter. You don't want to be healthier. You don't want to be able to jump higher and kick harder and do all these different things on top of just being big and jacked. You don't want to be able to do these things. Why wouldn't you? If you're going to go to the gym and spend an hour and a half there 4 days a week, why don't you just get the most out of it? You know? And it's funny with that because, you know, if I were to throw it into other contexts of any other thing that people might find desirable, they'd be like, oh yeah, I'll do that. It's like, well, what if you trained for an hour and a half 4 times a week, but instead of just muscle, you could have an extra $10,000 like with it? Would you take that? They'd be like, of course I would. Do you see where we're going with this? Well, if you're going to put the time in, why don't you go ahead and get athletic and strong also? You're already going to put in the time. Making the time commitment, why not just do everything optimized? Why not just do it all right? It's like me. You guys see me doing curls and stuff these days. You think I care about biceps? No. But I look at it and say, well, it could have benefits to me, and I might as, if I'm going to train, I might as well get some arms too. I don't care about biceps. They're not a particularly useful muscle in the grand scheme of things, but other people care about them from a looks perspective. Is it really a big deal to throw in a few curls? It is a big deal on my 2 upper days to do 4 sets of curls with an easy bar at the end. No. Let's come back over to the point. Why don't you just train optimally? Instead of messing with all these different frequencies and unproven things, well, Jeff Nipples told me that he does upper lower 6 days, and okay, well, who cares? What do the best coaches in the world generally do? What are coaches doing who are coaching the best and most elite athletes in 37 different sports? What are they doing? Is that how any of them train? Is that how they're coaching them as a general rule? Well, then why are you bothering with that silly shit? And that's what I want to ask people. If the best coaches in the world are not using certain methods for multiple sports, why are you wasting your time with them? Do you think that you know more than coaches who have 30 world record holding powerlifters at their gym and a few NFL players, or guys who are coaching people who are winning the Super Bowl? Do you think you know more about strength and conditioning than them? Do you think some of these YouTubers do? So if they're doing something completely different, which I'm not, by the way. I'm using very, very tried and true methods by elite coaches. But if they're not using this stuff, why are you bothering to waste your time listening to their silly nonsense? Do you want to get less results? It sounds like you do. Just train optimally, guys. If you're going to go to the gym, you might as well do it right. Alright guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.